All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here tonight. This is the final installment of our series of public input meetings for the Morton County War Dead Monument redesign and reimagination of our Morton County Memorial Plaza. Starting things off, I want to just reiterate a quote from William Gladstone, who was the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in the late 1800s. He says, "Show me the manner in which a nation cares for its dead, and I will measure exactly the sympathies of its people, their respect for the laws of the land, and their loyalty to high ideals." I think this is a relevant statement because with this reimagination of this monument, it just shows that we want to do better, and we need to do better. The existing monument was built in 1955. It was funded by the American Legion. What we don't know is if it was by the Legion throughout all of Morton County or just the Mandan specific Legion. We don't have that information available at this time. But that's one reason why we held it here at the courthouse tonight, so you folks can see this monument as you walked in. The monument itself is comprised of 6 panels. With those 6 panels, it gives a roster of those that are identified at that time frame in the Morton County that died as a result of war. They're broken down by World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Global War on Terror, and also recognizing our Medal of Honor recipients. Now, constructed in 1950, this monument is 70 years old. And as a result of that 70 years of snow removal, 70 years of weatherization, 70 years of freeze, thaw, it's taken some hits. And that combined with what we've identified in errors on the monument, names that are missing, that's what brought us to where we're at today. So again, there's 6 different panels. When you're looking towards the south, as you're looking at the wall itself, you're going to see on the very left side World War I. There's 30 names rostered on that one casting from 12 different communities. Panel number 2, as you see, is blank. It was intended as an overflow for additional World War I veterans or deceased. Panel number 3 is World War II. Well, 3 and 4 are World War II. Panel number 3 has 32 names rostered from 8 different communities. Panel number 4, continuation of the war dead from World War II, has 40 rostered, all from one community. Additionally, with this, we've identified 15 additional names, and there's one name that's listed on there twice from 2 different communities. The World War I didn't have that down in my notes, but I believe it's 16 additional names that we identified in World War I. So again, through the attrition of time and research, we've uncovered a lot more. Panel number 5 is the Korean War and the Vietnam War, respectively. There's 13 names rostered from 7 different communities. And with the Vietnam War, there's 10 rostered from 5 different communities. Again, with the Korean War, I have my notes in here a little further down, but we uncovered 2 more from the Korean War that were not rostered originally. And then you see on panel number 6, the Global War on Terrorism, where we have 1 person rostered, and we've also uncovered another person that might qualify to be rostered as well, both from the same community. And then also we have the Medal of Honor recipients, and again, these are Morton County affiliation, where they're the residents of Morton County that were recipients of the Medal of Honor. So the one thing I want to point out with this is when you look in between the monument or the placards, you notice the differences in the presentations, differences in the fonts, differences in the plaques themselves. So again, I want to reference that original quote, we want to do better. We need to do better. So going through a little bit of a timeline, in 2021, With the assistance of our Veteran Service Officer, Mitch Earhart, we pushed out a news story petitioning the public as far as what should we do. That's when we first identified some of the more significant damage. So what should we do for a renewed war monument? We had three options that we pushed out. Reconstructing the wall, replacing the war memorial nameplates as they appear today, erect a new type of structure to remember the war dead using the current memorial nameplates, or a third option was erect a new structure without the nameplates and direct people to a county historical site website that gives more information of our war dead. So that was in 21. In 22, fall of 22, architect Al Fitterer was petitioned by Commissioner Zachmeyer to prepare a preliminary opinion, or an opinion of preliminary costs to repair the existing wall based on the damages that we received at that time frame also, which intensified that winter and again in the winter of 23. Some of you might remember we had pretty heavy snowfall. So in June of 23, again, architect Fitterer was notified about the damages. Since then, a little bit more intensity for propositions on what to do with this memorial wall. So he connected with Jake Axman of AGL Architects. He's a landscape architect, and combined with joint development for the entire area of this monument plaza. So in 24, Al Fitterer and Jake Axman presented two different concepts during the May 9 meeting of the County Commission. We had the elliptical concept and we had a zigzag concept. The zigzag concept was replicating the existing monument. The elliptical was more encompassing of the landmass that involves the whole frontage of the Morton County courtyard area. So with that, we pushed public meeting, and the significant level of response, about 82% of the responses was for the elliptical concept. So that was the direction that we took, and then at that same time from the County Commission in December of 24 established the Morton County War Dead Monument Committee. And that was, their efforts was to devise the final concept which we're presenting tonight. So the Morton County War Dead Committee, which is comprised of Stacy Bendish, who's sitting right here. Stacy Bendish is from the Mandan area, but also has family in the Fort Rice area. Stacy's a U.S. Navy veteran, and he has family members rostered on the wall. Scott Stevens, sitting back here, he's from the Mandan area, and his wife is from the Flasher area. So Scott is also a U.S. Army veteran and is a Gulf War veteran. Larry McClellan, who's from the Mandan area, he's an Army veteran and a Gulf War veteran. Nicole Bickford Freilich, commonly referred to as Nikki. Nikki's from the Mandan area, but also from the Judson, New Salem area. And she too is an Army veteran, Kosovo veteran, and a Gulf War veteran. Gary Goroski, sitting over yonder. Gary's from the Mandan area and is also a U.S. Navy veteran. Glenn Reed is currently in Wyoming right now, but he's from the Mandan area. He's a Marine Corps veteran and a Gulf War veteran. Representative Todd Porter, as a citizen, who also has family members rostered on this wall. Morton County Commissioner Andy Zachmeyer. Andy Zachmeyer is a facilities portfolio for Morton County Commission as well, so he combines with this committee to making sure that we address things correctly for the facilities in addition to personal interest. And then myself, Ray Morrell, I come from the Mandan area, St. Anthony area, Fort Rice, Huff, that's where all my family's from. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, Gulf War veteran, and I have family member rostered on this wall. And also joining us on our team is Wendy Bent, a recording secretary, who's actually in the back of the room recording. Wendy is our Morton County HR director, but she is also a Marine Corps veteran. So the objective of the committee. We worked with the architects to flesh out a suggested final design with detail and architect's cost estimate. The final design will be presented to the County Commission for final consideration. They'll develop a fundraising strategy for the final design based on architect's cost estimate. Pending final authorization by the County Commission, execute fundraising needs for the successful construction and erection of an approved monument. Pending final authorization by the County Commission, work with the authorized architects to solicit bids for the final design and bring the recommendations to the County Commission for consideration prior to authorizing bid award. Upon the go-ahead of the County Commission, work with the architect for the successful construction of the approved final design, and coordinate and execute a public dedication ceremony of a finished monument. So that's what the committee has been charged with, and we're still working on bullet number 1 with the final design concept. So with the committee, we also set up 3 subcommittees. One of them is the historical research for the Morton County War Dead. That was Commissioner Andy Zachmeyer and Nikki Freilich, and their mission was to research with as best available records possible and to uncover those other Morton County War Dead that should be considered for this wall. And then also working with that same historical research is identifying biographical information of our Morton County War Dead, so we can do more than just say their name. We can actually tell their story. We have parameters, criteria for rostering names for the Morton County War Dead. That was comprised of Scott Stevens, Stacy Bendish, Larry McClellan. They developed criteria to serve as the basis for the future fallen service members of Morton County, enabling their names to be enshrined on this monument without dispute. Prior to this, we never had parameters to roster names, so this subcommittee identified the parameters. They brought it to the full committee accepted them, and we brought it to the county commission. It is now a policy. So this is to be enacted from the names that are out there at this very moment to the names we intend to add on will all be evaluated based on this criteria, which we'll hit here in a little bit. And of course the fundraising committee, which was Gary Gorosky, Glenn Reed, and Todd Porter, and they work to identify a fundraising strategy with action items that will help fund the construction of the monument. So the strategy is in place. Obviously, we'll be fine-tuning it when we get into those next steps. So as I mentioned, the fundraising strategy has been assembled. It includes corporate donations, individual donations, gaming donations, and more, in addition to suitable recognition for those donors without diluting the importance, the significance of the monument wall itself. We do not have a dollar assigned for this monument because we're still in the concept. But for fundraising purposes, we're planning for $1 million. The initial cost estimates brought forward by the architects a year ago, was at $800,000. It's, who knows how long before we can get this up and running, depending on fundraising efforts. It might take 2 years. So that being said, we got to look at cost of construction 2 years out. So that's where we're looking at $1 million platform. The Historical Research Committee, again, they've been working on uncovering other qualified Morton County residents that would be rostered on this wall. So part of that was including up to the existence of Morton County as an official jurisdiction. So when we were organized as a county, which puts it in Spanish-American War time frame. So 2 names have been added from the Spanish-American War time frame. 16 names were uncovered from World War I time frame that are not currently on the wall. 15 names were identified from World War II that are not currently rostered on the wall. 1 additional name identified from the Korean War. 1 additional name identified from Global War on Terrorism. So that's 161 names, up from 126 that's currently on the wall. And as mentioned, also assembling biographical information on each and every one of these service members. The parameters, that's the slide that we're here. The parameters and criteria committee established the following as the criteria, which again has been adopted by the Morton County Commission. So the service member will They've been bona fide resident of Morton County for at least 30 days prior to the time of service within the United States Armed Forces, dated to the organization of Morton County. So the 30 days residency, that just follows line with state law for residency. You got to be 30 days within North Dakota to be considered a resident of North Dakota. So we're just following that same suit. But again, taking it back to the organization of Morton County. They have to be enlisted or commissioned in any branch of the United States Armed Forces at time of death. Cause of death must be directly contributed to the military operations and or hostile engagement with or by a foreign adversary. And that hostile action or that foreign adversary must be recognized with the U.S. Department of Defense. So what that means is, put it in layperson terms here, so if there was an attack like say the USS Cole, if there was a Morton County resident that was a casualty of that attack, they would be considered. Because that is a formal adversary recognized by DOD. As an example. Or obviously World War II, Vietnam War, the global war on terrorism. Formal adversaries recognized by DOD. So upon verification of all the criteria listed previously here, the service member will be considered via committee review. That committee's not been established as yet, but might be working with the parameters criteria committee, working that review. And in the event the request for the fallen service member is contested between the sponsoring party and the assigned review committee, the Morton County Commission will exercise final decision. So this image was taken, about a month ago. This is the palette, the canvas that we're playing with. Is the entire open area between the two outcroppings of buildings of the courthouse proper. I don't have the exact dimensions. I believe it was like 70 feet across and something of that nature. But this is what we used as our basis for the reimagined area. The mission was to develop a moving, honorable memorial to our war dead that can be interactive, engaging, and represent community. So as I said before, you can see where the flagpole is and you look straight back, that is the existing wall. It kind of blends in. It's a creature of its architectural design from the 1950s. You know, it is what it is, but that's what we're looking at, is making it a little bit more recognizable, a little bit more honorable, and something a little bit more sustainable when we're looking at snow removal. So again, as I said in my opening comments, we want to do better. We need to do better. So bringing to our architects themselves, Al Fitter, he was established in 1976, Al Fitter Architect. Obviously, he's done a lot of projects across Mandan, Bismarck, Morton County, and throughout. The question isn't what he has done, the question is what has he not done. And quick conversation with Al here at a previous presentation, he made a comment to me. He says, "I've not done a war memorial." So this is a check mark for him. Jake Axman, he's a landscape architect, one of the principals with AGL Architect. They have offices in Fargo, Bismarck, and they work throughout North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, and beyond. Jake has, as far as correlation with this specific project, his most direct work would be the recently established National Cemetery in Fargo. Jake did the architecture for that one. And with the two collectively, as far as our Warded Monument Committee, the meetings that we had, sometimes they're 2 hours, 3 hours long. They listen very intently, and they listen to our ideas, our passions, our suggestions. And when they brought back the concepts the next meeting, it was just like, wow, they captured it. So with that, I will turn over to our architects. Jake or Al, you want to come forward?
Yeah. Well, just a couple of comments prior to us getting started or turning it over to Jake, is the fact that the the renovation costs that I had given back in 22 was for just shy of 100,000. So then after that, and then the winter of 22 and 23 is when Commissioner Zachmeyer in the summer then had emailed to me and told me that the wall had been further damaged. And he suggested maybe we should consider moving the wall. So I give Commissioners Zachmeyer the credit for us going further into this design and taking a look at the memorial and to make it a better project than just a simple renovation of that existing wall. So at that time then I felt, okay, this is a landscaping project and it's a much larger project, and that's when I then suggested to the commissioners that we take on Mr. Axman and his company to assist us in this design. So, Mr. Axman, if you would.
Thanks, Al. Al mentioned to me on a car ride out to one of our stakeholder meetings that this January will be the 50th year for Al Fitter Architects. I thought that was pretty incredible. It's a great legacy that you've left. So it's been really fun working with you and the committee as well. So what we're going to do tonight is we'll go through the existing conditions, the existing site a little bit. I'll explain some of the items that we identified as opportunities and constraints for this project. And then we'll go through some of the images. If there's any comments or questions that you have during the presentation, feel free to jump in and pause me and ask some questions. So we will start with the existing conditions, if everyone can see the image. There's a few things that we'll point out that we tried to think about in designing the new plaza. So the first thing we'll point out is the location of the existing memorial wall. You can kind of see it right to the right-hand side of that flagpole, that kind of zigzag shadow. It's kind of blending in with the building. You don't necessarily see it real clearly from the street. The 10 Commandments, the historic 10 Commandments placard is off to the right-hand side. That sort of red granite plaque. There's also an existing mail ballot drop box right by the handicap parking sign on the right-hand side of the screen. That's something that we needed to think about. Obviously, the big mature tree, it's a beautiful honey locust tree. And in North Dakota here, we really got to take care of our mature trees wherever possible. So we worked hard to try to come up with a concept that would salvage that tree. The American flag that you see in the background, very tall, very prominent. It is kind of in the back of the plaza space. We thought through the course of the design it might be nice to bring that further front and center in the plaza space. It is leaning a little bit and it's pretty close to the building, so there's some room for improvement there. And then some of the comments that we had with the security here is making sure that we're thinking about security sight lines and openness, and making sure that access and safety and security is thought about during the design of the new plaza. So we'll start with an after picture, and then we're going to kind of bounce around a little bit, so just be patient with me and we'll try to explain everything. So in this image, you can see the after. What we've done is move the American flag forward, make that a more prominent feature in the plaza space. You can see a silhouette of a saluting soldier in the background, and that is the backdrop for a combat cross placard. Off to the right-hand side, you will see the 3 memorial walls. The center wall is the largest of 3 walls, and that is the wall that features the names of the fallen. And then there are 2 flanking smaller walls with inspirational military-related quotes. So we'll look at this again in plan view. Another thing that I'll point out is one of the biggest changes to the plaza and this concept is the shape of the hardscape itself. Ray mentioned the elliptical shape. And the reason for that is we really wanted to make this location kind of a destination, a gathering point for the community during special events or holidays such as Veterans Day, that this can be a place where the community comes to and gathers and celebrates. And so we've really expanded upon the hardscape of this location. If you recall from the original photo, the wall kind of is pushed off to the left-hand side and then there's abundance of green space. So moving that wall further to the upper right-hand side has really opened up that, that plaza so that it's a more open, welcome, and inviting community space. Again, up on the upper right-hand side, you'll see those 3 wall plaques. We played around with the configuration and shape and size of those quite a bit, and the committee really recommended that that central wall, the most important part of this plaza, that central wall sort of be the highest feature in the plaza space, and then we have those 2 flanking memorial placards, and then we'll show some additional renderings for those. Off to the left-hand side, it might be a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but there are 4 dark gray rectangle boxes as you walk into the front door of the courthouse. Those are placards for Medal of Honor recipients. Right now we have 2 recognized Medal of Honor recipients, and then we have 2 additional placeholders. If there's any future recipients of that award, there would be a place for their name and information to go as well. And then central to the hardscape, that dark circle that you see, we're imagining a medallion of the Morton County, sort of an emblem of Morton County in the middle, surrounded by the 6 emblems of the 6 branches of the military. And we'll show some additional renderings for those. Here's another image. We're looking back towards the entrance into the courthouse. You can see that the emblem in the middle of the plaza. So that's a bronze material or similar that would be laid into the hardscape. So it's something that you could walk across and you would see every day as you would leave or enter that main entrance of the courthouse. And then again in the background you can see the memorial walls. And then central to the space is, you can see the combat cross right in the background, right in the middle of the screen. So one of the things that we talked about with the committee is playing with light and shadow in this space. We wanted it to feel differently during the day than it does at night. It makes it a more dynamic and attractive and interesting space to be in. And one of the ideas that we came up with the committee is this idea of a saluting soldier, a silhouette of a saluting soldier emerging in the evening hours, and it'll make the space feel entirely different than it does in the daytime. So we can just we'll just flip back and forth between a few images showing you that. So this is a nighttime image of that shadow, the saluting soldier shadow that emerges in the evening hours right behind that combat cross. This is on the back side of those memorial walls. The memorial walls, we imagine those being double-sided. So again, 3 sets of walls. I've mentioned that a few times now. Sorry to repeat myself. But the 2 flanking ones, the committee has been working on several inspirational military quotes that could go on those walls, commemorating military service and those that gave their lives for our country. And then again, the middle wall is where the names and combat missions or the wars would be stated, along with some other information that the committee would organize. So we've done a test fit of how many names would fit on the wall that we've conceptualized here, and there's enough names to already fill up one side of that wall plus about 1/3 of the back side of the wall. So we're leaving additional room for future names. Hopefully we don't have to use that space, but I think it's important that we think about that now, is making sure there's room for future names to be added if ever necessary. And then again, the walls are double-sided, and that's an important feature for this corner. There are some large clear-story windows in the corner, so from the inside of the building, you would actually be able to see out into the courtyard, and you would be able to see these memorial walls. And so it's a fully interactive space. We talked a little bit about the importance of safety and security in this space, and we use the term perimeter hardening when we think about how to make a site safe from vehicles driving into the space. So in this concept, what we've done is used a raised masonry flower bed. You can also see a couple of bollards in the middle of the walkway. And then off on the far left-hand side is a monument sign indicating the name of the plaza itself. So all of those features, while attractive from the street, are also providing a perimeter hardening or a barricade to prevent cars or anything similar from driving into that space and creating some damage. So we had to give that some thought. Functionality, safety, security, and as aesthetics, obviously. This is just another image looking back towards the courthouse. It might be a little bit difficult to read on the screen, but the committee has put a lot of time into selecting a name for this place, as well as the quotes on the walls. And we came up with the Morton County Memorial Plaza was the name that the committee came up with. And they went through a number of rounds of voting and put a lot of work into that. This is just another plan view image repeating some of the same information. So again, I'll just point out the primary items within the plaza. On the lower left-hand side is the American flag as well as the monument sign. And then we'll just move clockwise here as you get towards the front door. Those four little boxes are the Medal of Honor recipients. And then as you get to 12 o'clock, that's the saluting soldier and the combat cross. About 2 o'clock is the three walls. And then we're also saving that big honey locust tree that we talked about in the lower right-hand side. This is another image, and I think our final takeaway on the design, the intent of what we were trying to do here is, if you think about the existing conditions, what's there now, there's a memorial wall for those that gave their life for our country, and it's sort of hidden. You don't notice it from the street. And I hope what we've done here is delivered a concept of plaza that's fully immersive. There's a lot of symbols, a lot of military symbols here throughout the plaza. And I personally think about my experience walking into the door. What would it be like? You'd be greeted with the American flag and a sign. There's an emblem of Morton County and the military emblems. There's the memorial wall off to the right-hand side, the saluting soldier, the combat cross, and the Medal of Honor recipients. It's a fully immersive experience as you walk into the door that's going to be really difficult to overlook. And this is another image. This is as you're leaving the courthouse. Again, thinking about those military symbols, it was our hope as a design team to deliver something that fully commemorates those that gave the greatest sacrifice for our country. So again, you see the combat cross to the left, the memorial wall, the placard in the middle of the plaza, the American flag, and the Medal of Honor recipients all in that panoramic view. So again, that was our goal. Create a space that was fully immersive. It wasn't just the wall. It's a space. It's a community gathering place, and something that commemorates those that gave the greatest honor. So that's the end of my presentation. Talk too much. I love getting feedback, so we'd love to hear your thoughts. I know Ray will pick your brain a little bit too. He'll probably make all of you talk, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on what we've come up with. So, thanks.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Al. I'm going to reiterate on a few pieces. Again, starting at the original canvas that we're playing with, if you look on that back wall, you see there's a column right about in the center, a different brown tone. That's the existing granite, that same granite that's used on the cap of the warded wall itself and the abutments that are guiding people through the sidewalk. But also on the right where that plate of glass is showing, that's that same granite there as well. So the intention is trying to incorporate as much of what we can with the existing resources, the existing assets that we have, but making it part of this overall concept. So coming into here, again, as we talked about that granite, one of the considerations that we have is using the granite as the base underneath the wall, the three walls themselves, possibly using that granite as the base for the combat cross. And for those that are not aware of that term of a combat cross or a soldier's cross, you've seen it before. It's where you have the inverted rifle that's sandwiched between two pair of combat boots and a helmet on top. Our design, as far as the committee, the design concept we come up with is trying to make that combat cross multi-generational, multi-war. So using an M1 Garand, which was the prominent weapon in World War I, World War II, and Korea, situated between a pair of standard leather combat boots, which is all generations, and capped with a Kevlar helmet, which is today's war. The contrast of that with the shadow being cast against the wall, again, that intention is to incorporate the same limestone that's used on the outside edge of the current courthouse building as well. So again, trying to blend all the components into the final design, so it's conducive, it's reflective of an intentional design. But that shadow, if you take notice, the appearance of that is to also give the emergence of somebody that's coming out through combat. The term we Marines use is called our 782 gear, or deuce gear. So they got their pack on, they got their rifles on, they're as if they're coming out of combat. The wall panel itself, the committee had conversation about doing that as a precast concrete. And precast concrete with having a 1-inch panel or a thick panel that would have the names etched in the glass. However, the architects came back with a rendering with a thicker glass panel, roughly about a 4-inch glass panel. And when we saw that, it was one of those like, wow, that was really quite interesting. So I'm working with different sign companies for their capability as well as their pie in the sky cost, what that might cost us for this project. And the intention is possibly 4 inches thick, about the same size, same scale, and having them laminated together. So again, you could use that for enhancing your lighting, your nighttime lighting, things of that nature. But also, again, as I said before about not having just their name, which if you take a look on that whiteboard, that is the current listing of names that have been identified. There's a few more that we've uncovered since that printing. You see asterisks on there. Asterisks indicate the ones that are currently on the wall. But by having the names more than just that, so a conversation we also had was having a QR code on that monument wall. You can zap that QR code and takes you to the website, and there's their history. The names themselves, as Jake had mentioned, is questioning how much space we have, but the intention is to have their rank, their name, their home of record, the branch of service, and the date of loss, all in one line, all the way through the presentation on this monument by the conflict, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, on through the years.
I have a question about the QR code.
Yes.
Will that be, where will the history be? I mean, when you scan the QR code, I know that the North Dakota State Historical Society has done that Veterans History Project. Will it be there?
The question was, where will the QR code scan take the person to? Correct? Okay. The QR code will actually go to the Morton County website, because we are developing a renewed website. What I find, and again, I've been doing some of this research myself, and I'm sorry to say this, but the North Dakota Veterans Affairs, their website is not complete. So if the State Historical Society has resources as well, we'll tap into that resource. and add it into ours, but we're also, Morton County is also in very beginning stages of revamping our website.
My question, and I just throw that out there for information,
Mhm.
because I know, like, there are recordings of interviews with veterans in North.
Sure. And again, just to reiterate,
I'm just saying that, now these people are all dead, okay?
yeah,
Okay, sorry.
but to reiterate what was just said, for those that can't hear in the recording, is that the State Heritage or Historical Society has recordings, but again, we'll tap into every resource that we can to make these names come to life. That's our intention. The Medal of Honor placards, which again you see back by the front door or by the egress, off on the right-hand side. So these are not the final design. This is just a concept, just a placeholder. So as we work into the details, this will emerge a little bit better, a little bit more clearer, whether it's having their actual citation, an image of whomever that individual is. We're still working on that piece of it, but having the placeholder there so it doesn't get forgotten. The American flag, again, as mentioned, taking that to the curbside. The other part with that is taking it beyond a standard 4 foot by 6 foot by 4 foot flag, making it at least a 10 foot by let's see, is that 10 foot by 12 foot by 8 foot, or a 10 foot by 6 foot flag at a minimum size standards. Because again, we are a government building. We are recognizing our war dead. We're in a memorial location. So let's make it a little bit more prominent. Here was a reference about the 10 Commandments that are off in the southwest corner of the current courtyard. They were put there in 1966 by the Loyal Brotherhood of Eagles. They were a gift to the county at that time frame. They will not be touched. In fact, a little bit of history that was uncovered as well. Back in the very early 1900s, the Loyal Brotherhood of Eagles, it was a national project to put 10 Commandments across all of the United States. So that is referred to as a historical element, and it will not be touched. The center medallion, again, was touched on with having the courthouse seal, or the Morton County seal, and all 6 branches of service, because again, we have the 6 branches of Space Force. So that's why we're referencing 6 branches. But along with that, an intention, it comes with a cost factor we'll yet to identify, but having that elevated just a slight bit, like maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, so we can use it to illuminate light and let it flood the paved area at nighttime. And again, add a little bit more softscape to the elements that are shown. And tapping in with that, again, this has been a conversation piece, and I think as we discuss it more and more, it might be something we're going to want to incorporate, is in this corner image, in the bottom left corner, is access into this back hallway. That's where our boiler access is. So the dialogue is tapping into our boiler and incorporating radiant heat into this ground. So in the wintertime, we don't have to deal with snow removal as terrible unless it's a significant event, and it's going to be a lot of shovels. But also with the radiant heat will help keep the ice down. It'll help with the eliminate the need for salt, which deteriorates our concrete. The ice, of course, is a safety factor for all of our visitors to the courthouse. So that's a very hard conversation that we're having right now, anticipating what those costs might be. So that is one strong consideration will come into play, but also with that is on the street where that white pickup is, in that area, is actually the storm drain or a storm sewer, a manhole cover. This ground is very flat. We all see that when you're walking into the courthouse. We see that when you're walking out. So if we have heavy snow melt, or we use radiant heat, or rain events like what we're experiencing now, want to incorporate drainage. That'll take it right through the storm sewer. So that's also part of the conversation, part of what would hopefully be part of that final design. And then the plantings, we're very blessed to have our 4-H chapters as well as the American Daughters of the Revolution. The Daughters of the American Revolution, they work together to enhance the beauty of our courtyard space, and working with them to work the plantings. But where you see the planting beds, beyond that, the intention is just grass, natural grass. And again, looking at a timeline, so if this were to move with the speed of government, I would anticipate likely 2027 before we'd start moving dirt, if we get to go ahead today, because it takes that long for the engineering, it takes that long for the design, it takes that long for fundraising, and looking at all the pre-construction efforts that have to come into play before we start moving dirt, that would put us into a 2027 timeframe before we actually move dirt. So again, that's where the costs come into play, is we got to look for that cost 2 years from now. So that's where the intent on the fundraising side is looking at that $1 million cost platform. The other part of the fundraising side, and again, I'm a county commissioner, we have to look at our budget. Do our citizens expect the cost of this project to come from county funds? What will we have to eliminate from other projects to pay for this? So that's something that we also have to discuss. So before we wrap up this segment, I do want to invite, if you have your phone, you want to scan this QR code. Otherwise, I have hard copies here. If you scan this QR code, it will take you right straight to our website with a survey. The survey is going to be based off of what you saw on the exhibits. We have hard copies here that we're passing out also, but you can scan this. It takes you right to our website. You fill out that survey, submit it. I get a copy of my email right away. The other part of this presentation is we look at the timeliness of where we are today. Next week, Monday, is Memorial Day, a day that we as a nation reflect on those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. Take that opportunity to reflect on our Morton County Warhead. Take that opportunity to reflect on what this monument can become, so we can tell the story of those that passed before us, that gave that sacrifice. So in closing, again, I got one more quote, and this is from 19th century orator Robert Greene Ingersoll, and he mentioned this after the Civil War. They died for liberty. They died for us. They are at rest. They sleep in the land they made free. Under the flag they rendered stainless. Earth may run red with other wars, but they are at peace. In the midst of battles, in the roar of conflict, they found the serenity of death. I thank you for your time. If you haven't, please sign in as well, so we track of who has been in attendance here. We'll be around. I have rolling screen going on in the back that shows the same images. You get a little bit closer look at it. And you got other questions, feel free to ask. Thank you. Jim?
Ray, what do you plan on doing with the existing plaques?
The question was, what are we doing with the existing plaques? The exact action of that is yet to be determined. One of the conversations was using that metal to cast for the actual placard of the Morton County Memorial Plaza, the letters themselves. Very good question, though. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say this is amazing, and I only wish my dad was alive to see it. And I just, is it, the name of it is the Morton County Memorial Plaza? It would be nice to say Morton County Veterans Memorial.
We had a roster of 50 suggestions, and that was one of them. We went through 5 rounds of balloting before we finalized on the one. And I think that round 4 and 5, we whittled that one down. I think it was 6 names So it was an arduous process. Even for the quotes, we had 52 quote submissions, and we whittled them down to 4 in 5 rounds of balloting. So a little bit of a process. So again, I really have to commend the committee. There's some very strong dedication.
And it's a bid.
Other questions?